If you're watching this, you've probably already noticed something strange happening in your English. You can read complex articles. You understand fast conversations in movies. You even think in English sometimes. But the moment you open your mouth in a meeting, an interview, or a call with a client, something breaks. The words don't come out the way they sound in your head. Here's the truth most English learners never realize. It's not your vocabulary. It's not even your grammar. The real gap between understanding English and speaking English confidently is something much smaller and much more fixable than you think. This lesson can change the way you speak English in professional settings, starting today, not in 6 months, not after another grammar course. Because here's what nobody tells you. Fluency isn't built by memorizing more words. It's built by training your mouth, your ears, and your brain to move together. The way a musician trains their fingers before they ever play a full song. That's exactly what shadowing does. And today, on day 8 of our challenge, we're taking it to the next level, professional English. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to sound clear, confident, and credible in the workplace, on calls, in interviews, in meetings, using nothing but your own voice and 15 focused minutes. You've already come this far in the challenge. That alone tells me something about you. You don't give up easily. So let's use that same determination today and build the kind of English that opens doors. Let's get into it. Let's start with something you've probably felt but never said out loud. Talking to a friend in English feels easy. Talking to your manager, a client, or an interviewer feels like a completely different language. Why does that happen? You're using the same brain, the same vocabulary, the same grammar rules you already know. So why does professional English feel like climbing a mountain, while casual English feels like a walk in the park? The answer isn't about intelligence. It isn't about talent. It's about pressure, precision, and unfamiliarity. 3 things that quietly work against you the moment the stakes go up. Think about the last time you spoke English casually. Maybe you were joking with a friend, ordering food, or chatting online. If you made a small mistake, nobody cared. Nobody was judging your grammar. Nobody was writing down your words to remember later. There was no pressure. Your brain felt relaxed. And when your brain is relaxed, words flow more naturally. Now think about the last time you had to speak English in a professional setting. A job, interview, a client call, a team meeting. Suddenly, every word feels heavier. You're not just trying to communicate. You're trying to sound competent, confident, and credible at the same time. Your brain switches into a kind of performance mode, and that mode makes even simple sentences feel harder to produce. This is completely normal. It happens to almost everyone, in every language, not just English learners. There's also the issue of precision. In casual conversations, you can be vague. You can say, that thing, or, you know what I mean, and people fill in the gaps because the relationship is relaxed. But in professional English, vague language can make you sound unprepared or unclear. You're expected to be specific, to say exactly what you mean, using the right words for the right context. That precision requires a different vocabulary than the one you use with friends. Words like align, follow up, clarify, prioritize, escalate. These aren't difficult words, but they're unfamiliar in your mouth because you haven't practiced saying them out loud enough times. And that brings us to the third reason, unfamiliarity of rhythm. Professional English has its own rhythm and pacing. It tends to be a little slower, a little more structured, with clear beginnings, middles, and endings to ideas. Casual English is quick, overlapping, full of interruptions and half-finished sentences. If you've mainly practiced casual conversations through movies, music, or friends, your mouth simply hasn't built the muscle memory for the slower, clearer rhythm that professional situations demand. Here's the empowering part. None of this means you're not good enough at English. It means you've been training one type of English fluency, casual fluency, without training the other, professional fluency. And the beautiful thing about fluency is that it's not fixed. It's built. Just like an athlete trains different muscles for different sports, you can train your mouth and brain specifically for professional situations. This is exactly why shadowing is so powerful for this goal. When you shadow a professional conversation, a business meeting, a formal interview, a client call, you're not just learning new words. You're absorbing the pace, the tone, the pauses, and the confident delivery of someone who already sounds credible in that setting. Your mouth starts to memorize what professional English feels like, so that when you're in that real situation yourself, your brain doesn't have to search for the right rhythm. It already knows it, because you've practiced it dozens of times before it ever mattered. So if you'd ever felt embarrassed comparing your casual English to your professional English, let this be the moment you let that feeling go. You're not behind. You're simply missing focused practice in one specific area. And that is something we can fix together, starting with today's shadowing exercise. Remember, confidence in professional English isn't about knowing every big word. It's about training your voice to move smoothly through the situations that matter most to your career and your future. And every single time you shadow a professional conversation, you're one step closer to speaking with the calm, credible confidence you deserve. If professional English feels like a mountain, then shadowing is the rope that helps you climb it, one steady pull at a time. But here's what most learners get wrong about shadowing. They think it's just repeating what you hear. That's only half the story. The real power of shadowing lies in a small, specific trick that most people never learn. And once you understand it, everything changes. Here's the trick. Instead of listening first and then repeating, you speak at the same time as the speaker, almost like their shadow walking right beside them. That's where the name comes from. You're not translating in your head. You're not thinking about grammar rules. You're simply moving your mouth in real time, matching their rhythm, their pauses, their tone, like you're stepping into their voice for a few minutes. Why does this work so well for workplace confidence specifically? Because confidence in speaking isn't really about knowing more words. It's about removing hesitation. Think about the moments when your English breaks down at work. It's rarely because you don't work. Hence a flow. It's because you pause, search, doubt yourself, and lose your flow. That hesitation is the real enemy, not your vocabulary. Shadowing directly attacks that hesitation. When you shadow a confident professional speaker, someone leading a meeting, answering interview questions smoothly, or presenting an idea clearly, your mouth begins to copy not just their words, but their confidence pattern. You start to notice how they don't rush through nervous sentences, how they pause with purpose, not panic, how their tone stays steady even when the topic is serious. Little by little, without even realizing it, your own speaking style starts to absorb that same steadiness. There's a simple reason this happens so fast. Your brain learns language patterns through repetition and rhythm far more efficiently than through memorization. When you read vocabulary lists, you're storing information. When you shadow real speech, you're training a physical skill, the coordination between your ears, your brain, and your mouth. It's the difference between reading about how to ride a bicycle and actually pedaling one. One is knowledge. The other is ability. And ability is what shows up when you're sitting across from an interviewer or unmuting yourself on a client call. Now here's how to actually do this shadowing trick, step by step, so it works for professional English specifically. First, choose short professional audio clips. 30 seconds to 2 minutes is perfect. A business news segment, a workplace dialogue, or a short interview answer works well. Don't choose anything too long. Shadowing works best in focused bursts, not marathon sessions. Second, listen once without speaking. Just absorb the tone, the pace, and the general meaning. Don't worry about catching every single word yet. Third, play it again, and this time, speak along with it immediately, at the same time as the speaker, not after. Don't pause the audio to catch up. If you miss a word, let it go, and keep moving with the rhythm. This part feels uncomfortable at first, and that discomfort is completely normal. It means you're building a new skill, not failing at an old one. Fourth, repeat the same clip 3 to 5 times. Something magical happens by the third repetition. Your mouth starts moving more smoothly, and the sentence starts to feel like it belongs to you, not just the original speaker. Finally, try saying the same lines from memory, without the audio playing. If you can do this even roughly, you've just built new speaking muscle memory that will show up automatically in your real conversations. The reason this trick builds instant confidence isn't magic. It's because you're seeing success before it happens. By the time you're in a real meeting or interview, your mouth has already practiced sounding calm, clear, and professional dozens of times. You're not improvising under pressure anymore. You're simply repeating a pattern you've already trained. So the next time you feel nervous about speaking English at work, remember this. Confidence isn't something you wait to feel. It's something you build, sentence by sentence, through practice like this. And with shadowing, you're not just learning English, you're rehearsing the version of yourself who speaks it fearlessly. Let's talk about one of the most nerve-wracking moments in professional English, the work call. No face-to-face cues, no body language to soften your words, no time to think before you speak. Just your voice, alone, carrying the entire weight of how competent you sound. If you've ever hung up a call and thought, I know what I meant, but I don't think it came out right, you're not alone, and more importantly, you're not stuck. Sounding clear and credible on calls is a learnable skill, and it comes down to a few specific habits. The first habit is slowing down, but not in the way you think. Most learners believe sounding fluent means speaking fast. In reality, the opposite is true. Confident, credible speakers on calls speak at a measured pace, with clear space between ideas. Speed makes you sound rushed and nervous. A steady pace makes you sound in control, even if your vocabulary isn't perfect. The secret isn't slowing down your words, it's slowing down your thoughts, giving each idea room to land before you move to the next one. The second habit is using short, complete sentences instead of long, complicated ones. On a call, the listener can't see your face or your gestures, so long, winding sentences become hard to follow. Professional, credible speakers tend to break ideas into smaller pieces. Let me explain the situation. We had a delay last week. It affected the delivery timeline. Here's how we're fixing it. Notice how each sentence is simple, but together they sound organized and confident. This is far more effective than trying to fit everything into one long, breathless sentence. The third habit, and this is where shadowing becomes incredibly useful, is mastering call language. Every professional call has its own small vocabulary that native and fluent speakers use, almost automatically. Phrases like, "Can you hear me okay? Let me just pull that up. Sorry. Go ahead. I'll follow up with an email." Or, "Let's circle back to that." These phrases aren't complicated, but if you haven't practiced them out loud, they can trip you up in real time. Shadowing real call recordings or workplace dialogues helps these phrases become automatic, so you're not translating them in your head during a live conversation. They simply appear naturally when you need them. The fourth habit is tone control. On a call, your tone carries more weight than usual because it's the only emotional signal the other person receives. A flat, monotone voice can accidentally sound bored or unsure, even if you're actually confident. A voice that rises and falls naturally, emphasizing key words, softening at the right moments, sounds warm, engaged, and credible. This is another area where shadowing quietly transforms your speaking, because you're not just copying words, you're copying the melody of confident speech. The fifth habit is learning to handle silence without panic. Many learners rush to fill every pause because silence feels uncomfortable. But experienced professional speakers use brief pauses on purpose, to think, to let a point sink in, or simply to breathe. A short pause doesn't make you sound unsure. A rushed, run-on sentence does. Giving yourself permission to pause for 1 or 2 seconds before answering a question on a call is one of the simplest ways to instantly sound more composed. Now, here's how to bring all of this together using today's shadowing practice. Choose a short clip of a professional phone or video call, customer service exchanges, mock interview calls, or workplace dialogue videos work well. As you shadow, pay attention not just to the words, but to the pacing, the pauses, and the tone shifts. Notice where the speaker slows down to emphasize something important. Notice how they use short phrases to organize their points. Then, when you speak along with the audio, try to copy not just what they say, but how they say it. The rhythm, the calm confidence, the natural rise and fall of their voice. Over time, this practice rewires how you sound on your own calls. You stop worrying about finding perfect grammar in the moment and start focusing on something far more powerful, sounding steady, clear, and in control. And that's often what truly makes someone sound credible. Not perfect English, but calm, confident delivery. The next work call you take doesn't have to feel like a test you might fail. With this kind of practice behind you, it can feel like something you're simply ready for. There's a moment almost every English learner knows too well. Someone asks you a question at work, and your mind goes completely blank. You know the answer. You understand the question perfectly. But for a few painful seconds, nothing comes out. And in that silence, a familiar thought creeps in. They probably think I don't know English well. Today, we're going to change the way you see that pause forever, because the truth is, that silence isn't your weakness. It's actually one of your greatest tools, waiting to be trained. Here's something most learners never realize. Even native English speakers pause constantly. Listen closely to any confident leader, any skilled interviewer, any polished presenter, and you'll hear pauses everywhere. The difference isn't that fluent speakers avoid pauses. It's that their pauses sound intentional, while a nervous learner's pause sounds like panic. The words are the same silence. The feeling behind them is completely different. And that feeling is exactly what we can train. So why do pauses feel so terrifying for English learners specifically? It usually comes down to one belief. If I stop talking, it means I've failed. This belief pushes learners to fill every gap with filler. Sounds like, or to rush forward with broken, half-finished sentences just to avoid silence. Ironically, this rushing makes speech sound far less confident than a calm, deliberate pause ever would. The first shift you need to make is this. A pause is not empty space. A pause is breathing room, for you and for your listener. When you pause briefly before answering a question, it signals that you're thinking carefully, not that you're lost. It gives your brain a half-second to organize your sentence instead of blurting out disconnected words. And it gives the listener a moment to absorb what you've already said. Confident speakers use silence the way a good storyteller uses it, on purpose, not by accident. The second shift is learning to replace panic-filled silence with purposeful phrases. Instead of freezing completely, confident professional speakers use small, thinking bridges, short phrases that buy time while sounding completely natural. Phrases like, "That's a great question. Let me think about that for a second." Or, "Let me put it this way." Or simply, "Give me one moment," are incredibly powerful. They aren't signs of weakness. They're tools used by fluent speakers every single day. Once you have 2 or 3 of these bridges memorized and comfortable in your mouth, your nervous silence transforms into confident, composed silence. This is exactly where shadowing becomes your secret weapon again. When you shadow professional dialogues, interviews, panel discussions, workplace conversations, you're not only absorbing vocabulary, you're absorbing how confident people pause. Notice, the next time you shadow a clip where the speaker takes a breath before answering, notice how they don't rush to fill every gap. Notice the small phrases they use to buy themselves thinking time. Your brain starts to recognize, oh, this is what a pause is supposed to sound like. And slowly, without forcing it, your own pauses start to carry that same calm energy. Here's a simple practice you can start today. The next time you're shadowing a clip, intentionally pause the recording at natural breakpoints and practice repeating the sentence with a deliberate, calm pause before your response. Even if you're just speaking to yourself, say it slowly. Let the silence sit there for a second without rushing to fill it. This trains your nervous system to become comfortable with silence, instead of associating it with failure. Over time, something beautiful happens. The pause that once felt like proof of your weakness becomes proof of your thoughtfulness. Colleagues and interviewers stop hearing hesitation. They start hearing consideration. A person who pauses briefly before answering often sounds more credible than someone who rushes through an answer without thinking. Because thoughtful pauses signal maturity and confidence, not uncertainty. So, the next time your mind goes quiet in an English conversation, don't panic. Breathe. Use one of your thinking bridges if you need it. And remember that silence isn't a gap in your fluency. It's a space where your confidence gets to show up calm and steady, exactly when you need it most. Here's a question worth sitting with for a moment. Have you ever wondered why you never forget how to ride a bicycle, but you constantly forget English words you've studied 100 times? The answer isn't about intelligence or memory. It's about how the skill was learned. Riding a bicycle became automatic because your body practiced it repeatedly, in small, consistent sessions, until it needed no conscious thought at all. English fluency works exactly the same way, and today, we're going to talk about the one daily habit that turns effortful English into effortless English. That habit is simple, almost surprisingly so. Short, consistent, daily shadowing practice. Not 2-hour study marathons once a week. Not cramming grammar rules the night before an interview. Just 15 to 20 focused minutes every single day where you shadow real spoken English out loud. This single habit, repeated consistently, is what quietly transforms hesitant English into automatic English. To understand why consistency matters more than intensity, think about how muscle memory works in any physical skill. A musician doesn't become skilled by practicing 8 hours once a month. They improve by practicing 30 minutes almost every day. Their fingers slowly learn where to go without conscious thought. Speaking English fluently is no different. Your mouth, tongue, and breathing need repeated, regular practice to move naturally through English sounds and rhythms. Long, occasional study sessions simply can't build that same physical automaticity. Only daily repetition can. Here's what happens neurologically when you shadow daily, even in short bursts. Your brain begins to strengthen the specific pathways connected to listening, processing, and speaking English simultaneously. Each day you skip, those pathways weaken slightly. Each day you practice, even briefly, those pathways get reinforced. This is why someone who shadows for 15 minutes daily for 3 weeks will almost always sound more fluent than someone who studies for 3 hours once a week. It's not about total hours. It's about consistent, repeated activation. There's also a psychological benefit to this daily habit that's just as powerful as the language benefit. When shadowing becomes part of your daily routine, like brushing your teeth or having your coffee, it stops feeling like a stressful task and starts feeling like a natural part of your day. The anxiety around practicing English fades because you're not sitting down for an intimidating study session. You're simply doing your daily shadowing, the same way you do every day. This shift in mindset alone removes a huge amount of the fear that usually surrounds language learning. So how do you actually build this daily habit in a way that sticks? Start small, smaller than you think you need. If 15 minutes feels like too much some days, do 5. The goal isn't the length of each session. The goal is never breaking the chain of daily practice. Consistency beats intensity every single time. Choose a specific time each day, right after breakfast, during a commute, before bed, and attach your shadowing practice to that existing routine, so it becomes automatic rather than something you have to remember. Also, don't chase perfection in each session. Some days your shadowing will feel smooth, other days it will feel clumsy and frustrating. Both are completely normal, and both are part of the process. What matters isn't how perfectly you shadow today, it's that you show up again tomorrow. Progress in fluency is rarely visible day by day. It's visible week by week. When you suddenly notice that a sentence you used to struggle with now comes out smoothly, without you even thinking about it. This is the real secret behind every fluent English speaker you admire. Not natural talent, not some special gift for languages, but consistent, repeated practice that eventually became automatic. Fluency isn't a moment you arrive at. It's a habit you build, one small daily session at a time. So here's your challenge moving forward. Don't aim for a perfect, lengthy study plan. Aim for showing up daily, even briefly, with your shadowing practice. Because 18 days from now, on the final day of this challenge, the version of you who showed up consistently, even in short bursts, will sound noticeably more confident than the version of you sitting here today. Your fluency isn't waiting somewhere far in the future. It's being built right now, one daily practice session at a time.